We're kicking off a new season here at Lakeview Church, and there are plenty of great opportunities for you to serve. Stuff like this.
Lakeview Youth is an awesome place to serve. If you'd like to talk about joining the team, come find me, Curtis, at the newsstand.
Volunteering in Lakeview Kids is way more fun than youth ministry. We have so many ages and stages for you to choose from, and you can still attend another service on Sunday morning. So, we'd love to have your energy and enthusiasm added to our team.
Actually, the cafe is the best place to serve because you get to see and meet everyone on Sunday morning. The servers hang out and build great relationships, and you get free coffee. Interested? Come talk to me, Melissa, at the cafe.
Actually, all the cool kids serve in production. Follow me, I'll show you. Come on. Look up. Way up. We're in the crow's nest right now, and everything you see on the screen and lights is controlled from right up here. And this is the soundboard. Everything you hear is controlled right from this spot.
God knows what he's doing.
This is the producer's desk. The producer coordinates and quarterbacks all the elements for each service. And maybe the best part is you get to wear these cool headphones. This sermon is amazing. I know a lot of that can seem intimidating, but it's really not that scary. We offer training and apprenticeships. You can shadow someone, or you can just try it out to see if you like it. You're not committed to it for the rest of your life. So think about it. One of those opportunities might be for you.
Our website is a place to find static information like what's happening this week or what's coming up at Lakeview. But on Facebook, you'll be able to find stuff like reminders, notices, and special events, as well as shared posts from other ministries at Lakeview. So like us and be in the know.
Women of Lakeview, this announcement is for you. Registration is now open for Women's Retreat 2017 at Arlington Beach Camp, October 13th through 15th. Our guest speaker will be Connie Kavanaugh. To register and for more information, please visit us at prairiewomen'sministries.weebly.com.
We're excited about partnering with Big Brother, Big Sister of Saskatoon again this year for their in-school mentorship program at St. John School. In-school mentorship is really important to schools like St. John.
My name is Janice Van Gool, and I'm the principal at St. John Community School. The mentorship program at St. John has huge impact on our students. So many of our kids come from families that lack the resources to allow them to network in the community at all. So having that extra person in our school to connect with our kids, to build them up, to make them feel special, just makes them come to be more engaged in school, inspired, and strive to be better.
In-school mentorship takes 1 hour of your time, once a week during school hours. If this is something you want to hear more about joining into, come and see me, Tara, at the newsstand.
I decided to take the Alpha class. I'd been attending Lakeview for about 6 months and felt that I needed something just to kickstart my faith journey. And I'd heard really good things about Alpha, so that is what led me to sign up for the class. Alpha was really great for me. The weekly videos and group discussions just really enhanced my learning, and it's definitely led to many things in my life. From then, after the 10 weeks of Alpha, I decided to ask Jesus into my heart, and that's then led to my baptism at Easter. This fall, I am actually helping host one of the Alpha classes, so I am really looking forward to that. If you're considering taking the Alpha class, I feel whether you've been attending Lakeview for many years or you're fairly new like me, give this class a chance. It's a great way to learn, and it's an amazing way to see how Alpha has affected me and what it's doing and making a difference in people's lives.
Alpha is a 10-week series where we explore the major topics of the Christian faith, as well as ask our big questions about life and God. Alpha runs Wednesdays, September 27th to November 29th from 7 to 9 p.m. in the atrium. Interested? Visit me at the newsstand or email me at allison@lakeviewchurch.com.
Moms is starting up again. We're a group of moms who get together once a week on Tuesday mornings to connect, and we're going to be switching it up a little bit this fall. This year, our focus is to serve and care for you. So childcare, check. Food, check. And connecting with other women and good conversation, check. All moms are welcome. It doesn't matter who you are. A baby mom, a school person mom, that's not really something. Or they're in high school and I want to die mom. Moms of a mom of a mom? Mom? That's like a great grandma. This fall term, we are going to be learning what it means to be an emotionally healthy woman. You can register online or find us at the newsstand for more information. Mom. But now the word sounds weird.
Hi, my name is Sarah.
And my name is Brent.
And the reason we joined a small group is actually we were fortunate enough to be invited into one and felt like it would be a great opportunity for our family and for us.
Small group has been important to us because it's been an opportunity for us to share our faith with other families from our church.
I think it's been a good opportunity for us to keep church alive for the whole week, not just on Sunday. And I think to be able to surround yourself with other people that you look up to and admire and makes us want to be better and have a better family, and I think we do because of it.
Anyone considering joining a small group, I'd say do it. Jump in. It's just a great opportunity to get involved in the church, meet some new people, and have something to look forward to, outside of just coming on Sundays.
I think besides coming to Lakeview as a church, joining a small group has probably been one of the best things we've done for our family and our faith.
Small groups are smaller gatherings of Lakeview folk that meet together to cultivate transforming relationships with one another and with God. You should think about hosting a small group. The commitment is worthwhile, and as you heard, the payoff is huge.
Couple of quick things before we get rolling. You should have received last week, if not this Sunday, a brand new copy of the brand new Lakeview Journal as you walked in. Why do we print these? Why do you need one? A few reasons. It is a vision document. It tells you who we are, what we're about, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. It's a catalog of the ministries that are available to you and your family. It's a contact list for the leaders, both volunteer and paid staff, who are looking after this community. And then towards the back end of this book are empty pages, journal pages, so that as you track with the messages and things that you are learning and God is speaking to you, you can lock that down on paper. Why paper? Because there's something about dragging your pen across a piece of paper that locks things into your mind. You're allowed to doodle. You're allowed to make smiley faces. You're allowed to doctor up the staff pages. You can do that. It's your book. So someone asked me this week, is there going to be a digital version released? And the answer is no, because hey, paper works. And second of all, maybe you shouldn't have your face in your phone for 25 minutes or something like that. Is that okay? You're okay with that? We're good with that? Good, I hope so. Last but not least, announcement-wise, our feature read for this month is a book entitled Faithful Presence by David Fitch. A little bit of a name drop here. David is a friend of mine. He's been a coach. He's been a mentor. And through our many conversations and visits and his writings has really shaped the way I do what I do. So I thought this would be a helpful thing to suggest to you as we talk about the local church and what she's about and how beautiful she is and all the good things that she is able to do. David's latest book here is easily accessible. And for those of you who are interested in these kinds of topics, we'll sort of flesh out further the things that we have begun to unpack here in this series. So you can pick one up. They are available in the bookstore. All right, let's get rolling here. So I got something here I want to show you. It's kind of like show and tell. What I have here is a Saskatoon potato. You guys see that right here? Born and raised right here in Saskatoon, maybe like many of you. And this potato is a powerful, powerful object because there are so many things that you can do with your average potato. We could slice this up all shoestring-like, you know what I'm saying? Throw it in a vat of boiling oil, pull it out, put some of that sea salt on top of it, maybe a few chives or something, maybe a little bit of ketchup, and you have yourself a nice tasty snack. Or we could take it and we could double bake this potato. Have you ever double baked a potato before? Like you bake it for a bit, then you pull it out, then you carve out the middles, and then you like whip it up with like cheese and egg and breadcrumbs, and you put it back together, and my mouth is watering, and then you eat it, and it's super good, right? Or you could take this potato and you could mash it up and make up some great mashed potatoes. My wife makes the greatest mashed potatoes ever. Do you want to know her secret? Is she here? Oh, this is her secret recipe. Ready? You get like a container of like a garlic cream cheese and you throw that in when no one's looking and mix it up and everyone's like, these are the greatest potatoes ever. Yes, they are. So you can give that a try. It's great. Or I could take a potato like this. I could cut it into quarters. I could make sure that it gets into the right soil. I could make sure that it gets water. I can make sure that it gets sunlight. I can make sure that it's protected. In a little while, this one potato is going to make me so many more potatoes that I can make whatever way I want. And all that power exists in this potato, but the real power exists with me. Because I have control of the sun. I have control of the water. I have control of the soil. I have control of the oven. I have the control of the cream cheese. I have control of all of it. Without me, this potato really is nothing. Because I could just leave it there. And under my care, we could just allow it to wither. It could sit there for a week, for 2 weeks. It might sprout some eyes, but eventually it's not going to get what it needs and it's going to die. And we could leave it here till Christmas and it could be all shriveled up. Or we could come back in 1 year's time and take a look at it and say, ooh, there's nothing left of that potato. And all of that is within my power. I can either let it die or I can bring it to life. And I didn't learn that on my own. Somebody showed me how to do these things. In fact, in my earliest memories, I have memories of being in my grandparents' garden and watching them grow vegetables and look after them. Then I have memories, and there are pictures in photo albums at my parents' house of me in my dad's garden. And I remember, because we grew up in this neighborhood that was heavily populated by Europeans, Italians and Greeks and Portuguese. So everyone's backyard was mostly a garden. Like there was a little strip of grass, the rest was garden, and it was lush. So I watched, and people showed me what to do. And then eventually, when I had my own kids and my own little plot of land, I started sharing with them what was once shared with me. So this is my son. Oh, isn't he cute? This is my son, and he's planting some stuff. And I said, okay, daughter, why don't you get in here and help us out, and we'll put these pumpkin seeds, because you decided you wanted pumpkins, and we'll put them way too close together, and then they're going to overtake the garden. And then by the end of it all, even the neighborhood boy had come over to see what was going on. And it seems like everybody in this picture is not happy except for me. And this is actually from 2008. My daughter Ella's in there. And I used to keep like notes of some of the silly things they used to say as kids. So I pulled this picture up, and it came from that 2008 file, and I found the quote. This is her best quote from 2008. It goes like this: "Dad, not everybody hates you," end quote. And I was like, I can live with that. I can live with that. And I think she may have said it because she was upset, because she wasn't allowed to do as much planting as her brother was doing. But that's okay, because by the end of the season, everything had grown and everybody was happy, and everyone was so happy to pull those fruit and vegetables from the garden. And that's where I want to go with us here this morning. Talk a little bit about the end of the season, the way things are actually going to turn out. But I also want to talk a little bit about what we do in this in-between time as God's gardeners, as God's co-creators, remembering that He has given us the power, the means, and the authority to do something with the things that He has given us. And not only that, but that we also have the responsibility to pass that knowledge and experience on. So if you were here last week, we began to unpack what that looks like here for us as Lakeview Church. And we unpacked this blueprint, this diagram of sort of our roadmap for what we're about and where we're going. And at the center of that is our mission to join God in the renewal of all things wherever we may see it or find it. The next ring out, we talked a little bit about it last week. It was about Sunday gatherings and how these are disruptive environments. That once a week we gather here together to peel away the lid from that nasty Tupperware container, if you remember the story, and it wakes us up, it jolts us, it helps us see things a little bit differently. And this morning I want to take it one more step. I want to talk about these discipleship elements, the things that make Lakeview run and work, but they're more than just programs. What we're talking about here, what we're actually talking about, is creative environments. If last week we talked about disruptive environments, this week I want to talk about creative environments. And I'll spend maybe 10 minutes chatting about that, and then I'm going to invite some of our pastors out to help us unpack that further. But to kick us off, a story that maybe you are familiar with. Jesus says that God's kingdom is also like a man going off on an extended trip, and he called his servants together and delegated responsibilities. To one, he gave $5,000, to another, $2,000, to a third, $1,000, depending on their abilities. And then he left. Right off, the first servant went to work and doubled his master's investment. The second did the same. But the man with the single 1,000 dug a hole and carefully buried his master's money. And after a long absence, the master of those 3 servants came back and settled up with them. The one given $5,000 showed him how he had doubled his investment, and his master commended him. Good work. You did your job well. From now on, be my partner. And the servant with 2,000 showed he had also doubled his master's investment, and his master commended him. Good work. You did your job well. From now on, be my partner. And the servant given 1,000 said, Master, I know you have high standards and hate careless ways, that you demand the best and make no allowances for error. I was afraid I might disappoint you, so I found a good hiding place and secured your money. Here it is, safe and sound, down to the last cent. And the master was furious. That's a terrible way to live. It's criminal to live cautiously like that. If you knew I was after the best, why did you do less than the least? The least you could have done would have been to invest the sum with the bankers, where at least I would have gotten a little interest. Take the 1,000 and give it to the one who risked the most, and get rid of this play it safe who won't go out on a limb. Throw him out into utter darkness. Wow, ouch, that's a harsh ending to this story. So what we see and what we learn from this parable is that the successful servants are who? Successful servants are the ones who took the greatest risks. And even though the first one made more money than the second one, their reward was exactly the same. So the servants were not judged on the basis of their productivity or their gain. What they were judged on was their risky faithfulness. Notice that nowhere in this story does the master say, where's my money? Where's my money? He doesn't say that once. Instead, he's asking, how much business did you transact with what I've given you? At the beginning of the story, he says, go, take this, do something awesome with it. And at the end of the story, he says, hey, what did you do with what I gave you? Was it awesome? Did cool things happen? Do you have any great stories? Show me, show me. And maybe that is the beauty of this parable. It's the beauty of God's kingdom, and maybe the beauty of God's perception of you and I. That he does not care if your investment yields great returns or not so great returns. What he actually cares about is if you have been active with what he has given you. And the poison, the defeat, the sin of that last servant was because he played it safe. So safe that he was inactive, that he didn't try anything fun or risky or enjoyable with that which he was entrusted with. The big sin in this parable was just playing it safe. So what does that mean for you and I? A couple of quotes, and they're probably 2 sides of the same coin. Mother Teresa says it this way, that I'm not called to be successful. I am called to be faithful. And Dallas Willard responds, first, we must accept the circumstances we constantly find ourselves in as the place of God's kingdom and blessing. God has yet to bless anyone except where they actually are. And if we faithlessly discard situation after situation, moment after moment, as not being quite right, we will simply have no place to receive his kingdom into our life. For those situations and moments are our life. So what does that mean for you and I this morning? I think it's this, that you have already been given everything that you are supposed to have and supposed to work with. Whether it be your past or present experiences, the goods and bads in you, the skills you have, the people you're with, your family, your friends, where you work, the place you live, all of that is the hand that you have been dealt. And the master says to you, go, this is what I've given you. Do something cool with it. Do something with it. And what that also means for you and I is this, is that the only hand you have to play is the one you've been given. You are not supposed to be anybody else. You're supposed to be you. God wants you. The church needs you. And here's the thing, friends. I don't know what your potato is. I don't know what God has passed on to you. I don't know exactly all the details and characteristics of your life. I don't know the people that are under your care or in your sphere of influence. I don't know exactly what you have to give or what the future holds, but God does. And in a way, you do. So in this sense, the potato has been passed to you. And God, the master, is sitting at the edge of his chair saying, well, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to shoestring that sucker? Are you going to double bake that thing? Are you going to put it in a potato launcher and shoot it at your children? I'm waiting. Yeah, he says right here. What are you going to do with it? Because it's under your care. It's your turn. You have the power to make it come alive, or you have the power, while it's under your care, just allow it to wither and die. Know this, that God trusts you. He trusts you with his stuff. And he wants you to do something with it. And if you are here this morning and you're afraid, you better check that fear. Because as we read about this third servant here, your Bible might say he was a lazy servant. I think the translation we read this morning is a bit more accurate, where it says that he was afraid. What was he afraid of? He was afraid of the master. Now, let me give you a little theological diatribe on that. Ready? That's dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why? Because the master has never come off as a mean ogre. The master has never been nasty. The master has never done anything to put fear inside your head or inside your heart. The master is just not like that. So for those of you who are here this morning, that's maybe somewhere down the line, someone formed you or programmed you with this picture of an angry God who is just waiting for you to mess up. Remember the words of the Apostle Paul to a young Timothy when he said, we read it this morning, for this reason I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So to you this morning, the scriptures say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of God, and don't be afraid of whatever this world throws your way. But not only that, recognize that you have been given power to set whole worlds into motion, to bring things to life. And maybe that's the other piece that you need to walk away with here today. Do you recognize and realize the creative power that you have? That you are able to command the sun and the soil and the water and the oven and the bacon and the sour cream and whatever else you want. You have the power for all of that, to pull all those pieces in together. You have a power that is miraculous, that is authoritative, and that is incredibly important. And you have the ability to shape the future as it should be. You have the power to reshape and reorder lives. So as you walk out of this place this morning, I hope that you walk out understanding that this gift, what God bestows on you and trusts you with, is not a burden. It's not something to be afraid of, but to recognize it as an incredible investment that God has made in you. I want you to walk out of here this morning with this picture of God in your mind as giddy, maybe sitting on the edge of his seat, wondering what you're going to do with what he has given you. What sort of nutty plan are you going to hatch? I want you to walk out of here this morning and know that this is your moment. This is your time, and this is your turn to do something meaningful. Are you with me? Are you with me? Yeah, you're good? Good. All right. I'm going to invite some friends to come out here real quick. You like that, eh, Justin? That was like my Hulk Hogan wave there. You saw that. You caught it. I'm going to invite some friends to come out here this morning because I think it's important for us to hear about these creative environments and the creative power and authority and calling in our lives, not just from this mouth, but from the mouths of people who you have commissioned to help lead and to take care of this community. So what we're going to hear here today is just a little bit about how this stuff is actually taking place and how it's coming to life within Lakeview Church. So before we get going, I'm just going to quickly introduce or perhaps reintroduce to you who's sitting on the stage with me here today. Allison Lauber is here, and she's in charge of all things formation here at Lakeview Church, from baptism to Alpha to the classes and that kind of stuff. She looks after it. And one of my favorite things about Allison is that she brings a depth to our staff and to this community. She might be the most educated person on our team, but it's more than just information to her. I see it translated into pastoral moments and pastoral care. So whenever I bump into her office and I say, hey, what do you think about this? Or do you know this person? Like, she knows. Like, she's got like her thumb on what's going on in this community, in your lives. And she's taken this depth, this knowledge, to actually translate that into care. So thank you. Thank you for what you do for our community. I'm glad you're part of the team. Darlene. Darlene is a veteran's veteran. Do you have any of those people at work? Darlene is a student of her craft. When I watch and listen and see what she's doing, I just stand back and say, you're good. Oh yeah, you are good. You know what you're talking about. So Darlene, thank you. Thank you for bringing that well thought out pieces to our kids' ministries here at Lakeview. We couldn't do it without you. And your trusty partner as well, Nancy LaRosse, also part of our kids' ministry leadership. If I had an x-ray machine up here right now and we ran Nancy through it, you know what the results would show? That Nancy is 99.99% heart. That woman is all heart. And I have watched you, Nancy, over the last 4 years, love kids and love families and love parents. And you cannot teach that kind of stuff. It's a gift that God has given you. And I'm so thankful that you're playing it out here and your voice is helping shape this community. So thank you. Glad you're on the team. And last but not least, young Skywalker, Kurt Anderson, Director of Student Ministries. I'm not going to lie to you. 10 or 15 years ago when I was a Student Ministries Director, I thought I was the best youth guy in all of Canada. I probably was, but you know why? It's because I didn't know Kurt Anderson. I'm serious. So when I look at Kurt, I see someone who is wise beyond his years. And the way that he leads, whether it's with programming or students or parents, I just step back and say, dude, like you've got the goods. And I am so glad you're here. And I brag to my other pastor buddies that I think Lakeview has the best student ministries director in all of Canada, bar none. So can you thank all these people for investing and being part of what we're doing here? Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. So I've invited them to come forward, and we've sort of planned this out because earlier this week we sat down as a pastoral team to sort of flesh out how we would present to you what these creative environments actually look like on the ground here at Lakeview. We want to invite you into this conversation. So what's going to happen here in the next 10 minutes isn't a commercial for their ministries, but it's an invitation for you to see what these creative environments look like. And I want to start off with you, Allison. When we were talking about this kind of stuff and the role that you play here in the church, a line or a thread that you kept going on was, stepping into something transforms you. Can you bring our friends into that part of the conversation?
Well, that potato illustration is so good, right? That if we have a life, it's like a potato. In order to create something out of that life, we need to step into risky places where we actually can cooperate with God's grace in our life to make us more than what we are on our own. And so our discipleship elements are all offered with that in mind, that these are spots where we step into community with one another, as well as into cooperation with Jesus in order to be transformed into someone who lives well in the world, who lives like Jesus if he were in our shoes. Cool.
So then, why do you do it? I mean, I feel like your job is a lot of work. Like, I only work like 25 minutes a week, and you guys all see it, it's right here. But you're actually in the trenches. Like, why do you do it? And what do you see come out of those ministries that you help lead?
Well, over the last few weeks and months at Lakeview, we've had several people in our community pass away. And as I've been at those funerals and seen and heard the example of each of these people, how their lives actually line up with God's end. So their end in this life lines up with God's end. That's what I hope and desire for myself, but also for all of you. And I believe that all of these opportunities offer us the chance to become the kind of people so that at the end of our life, we can be known as good and faithful servants of God.
Cool. Can you tell that one story that I really wanted you to tell and I
Yeah,
was trying
all
to
right.
prompt you to tell just like 30 seconds ago?
So many of you know Dick Cheney. He passed away very suddenly a couple weeks ago. And at his funeral, I mean, he was a very successful man, did lots of amazing things with his life. But the thread through his funeral was just how kind and hospitable and loving he was. And at one point, one of his students, he had many students that he mentored over the years, came up and shared a voice message that he had kept on his phone. And it was just, Dick's very, a normal voice saying, you know what, I think we're going to have a potluck tonight. Come on over. And that's what people talk about at the end of your life, not, how many cars you had in the garage, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Now let's backtrack a little bit. As Allison works with adults, ladies, you're starting to put some of these pieces into place for our kids. And when we talked this out and rolled the whiteboard out earlier this week, you guys went on this tangent about it being about engagement and about a village mentality. So can you bring us in on that?
Yeah, you listen to the news these days and it's a bombarding of really awful things that you can't do anything about, or you feel like you're just powerless to do anything. And the temptation is to throw up your hands and just go, well, I obviously can't fix anything, so why bother? And I just want to challenge you to say no. We are called to at least be present and to step in to where we are. And that's all. God doesn't call us to fix everything, but at least to just be present. And I actually love potatoes. I plant potatoes. My kids, my grandkids, they all plant potatoes. And every once in a while I have too many potatoes to plant and I just passively leave it in the garden because I can't bear to throw it away, or if I can't find. And guess what the potato does if it just sits on the ground? It actually starts growing. Like it actually will, okay, this is where you want me to grow, and it'll throw down some roots, and it's like, hello. And at the end of the growing season, I have potatoes where I, mixed in with tomatoes or whatever. Sometimes all we need to do is show up. All we need to do is just be, it's like, this is the next thing in front of me, I'm just gonna stay. I'm not gonna run, I'm gonna stay, and even though I don't know what to do, this is where I'm gonna be, and I'm gonna let the Holy Spirit grow whatever He needs to in me. Our kids need people who are gonna do that, who are just gonna be present, just gonna look them in the eye and go, hey, I see you. And you watch kids open up and come alive, and it is a very beautiful thing.
Cool. Nancy, can you pick it up from there?
Well, he's been busy talking about potatoes, and right now in the theater, the kids are having a tater tot food fight. So that's pretty exciting. And we are here. So we're going to have to leave when we're done because there's 63 kids over there, and we got to go. They're also talking about Mr. Potato Head. So anyway, it's all about potatoes this morning. But I really want to mention that several times a year we do baby dedications and baptisms, and I always talk about how it takes a village to raise a child, and that's you people being a part of every one of these babies and children's lives, and likewise on up. And we totally want to empower you to do more. And even if you're not a parent, you can still do lots. But there is a Parent Q app that enables you to see just exactly what your kids are learning this morning. And each week, the curriculum that we've signed up for. And we also have these handouts that give you information about what the kids are learning each week. We only have 1 hour with your child, and you have the rest of the week while you're walking by the river and when you're at Tim Hortons or McDonald's or you're driving to and from school. There's times when you can talk to your kids about these things that we've talked about on the weekend, and we want to empower you to do that and to be a part of it. And the other thing is, we on Mother's Day and Father's Day, we have the kids come and stand there and hand out cards for a drink at the cafe. And the kids came to me and said, Pastor Nancy, those kids, some of those parents or people we gave them to said, whoa, I'm not a mom or I'm not a dad. But you know what? You're mothering some child sometime. And if those kids are offering you a card, it's because that's your role, is to be a part of the spiritual development of these children. And we are empowering you to do that here at Lakeview Church and Lakeview Kids. So thanks. We got to go.
Yeah, you guys are all right. See, can you just thank them real quick as they head on out? Thanks, ladies. And I love what Nancy and Darlene were saying, because I showed you pictures earlier of just teaching my kids how to plant a tomato plant. But what they're actually offering you as parents are the seeds of faith to plant in your kids. So whether it be through that paper or the free app that's available to download for you, we're trying to give you the tools that you need to cultivate this Christian life, to create this creative environment where God can do his work in your homes and with your kids. Now, Kurt, I want you to pick it up from there, because when we talked about it in terms of student ministries, the language was keep showing up, keep being there. Can you bring us into that part of the convo?
Yeah, well, I feel like the role that I'm in overseeing student ministries, it's sort of that transition from when you're a part of Lakeview Kids to when you're just simply a part of Lakeview. You know, I bring my son and daughter to church every Sunday, and that's our decision as a family. But at a certain point, my kids are going to have to take hold and responsibility of their own faith journey, and I feel like that's what we're starting to cultivate in our student ministries. And I think a significant part of that is just learning the value of keep showing up. Choose to be present. Recognizing, yes, when we come into these spaces, when we're a part of, young adults community or junior high community, whatever it is a bit disruptive. It does sort of nudge us out of our comfort zone, but it's also in those places where something very good happens, where we have the chance to not only be co-creators with God, but with others around us. And I've seen this come to life over the past couple of years as I've been at Lakeview. And I remember when I first got to Lakeview and I started meeting students, and the students I met first actually were the ones whose parents I worked with. And so there was two girls in particular, two friends whose moms I work with, Shauna and Heather, so Sydney and Megan. I met them early on. And I'm not going to lie, when I first met these two young ladies, I had the impression that I wasn't so sure what they thought about me or what they thought about youth, to tell the truth. I felt like Sydney wanted to hide. I felt like Megan just wanted to frown at me and just sort of like peace out completely. And I was a little bit unsure. I was like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. But what I've observed over the past couple of years is as those girls have decided to make a move in, to keep being present, to keep showing up, to be in community, they found this place of trust and safety. And I think what I see is they're recognizing that they have the capacity to shape this community alongside the others with us. And it's exciting for me to see, because they're recognizing that God is actually doing something very, very good in their own lives. And what really excites me is they're now leaders in our junior high community. They're passing on that faith to other young girls who are growing up in our church. And I see this over and over again when we learn to just choose to be present, to keep showing up, whether it's within like a youth community or a small group environment, to recognize there's so much power in our presence. Yeah, yes, it is uncomfortable at times. We sometimes step into spaces where we don't know people at first, and we're unsure about what's going to happen, and yet there's something good waiting for us, this chance to, like I said, to co-create with God, but to do that in community with others around us. And I think that's the beauty of what church is really all about.
And that's the perfect note to end on. So from there, I'm going to ask our worship leaders to come out, and we're going to reset here for this back end of our service to respond to what we've heard in worship and song. But I hope what you're hearing here, or what you're putting together, is this, is that you have the power to create environments for good. That God has given you all the tools, and you're the one who has been tasked to put them together. So I'm going to ask you to stand with us this morning, and as the band leads us, may this be a response not only to what you have heard, but to what God is asking you to do with what he has given.